Hi there and welcome to this tutorial video. In this video, we'll go through the steps involved with starting a new RCI. So just to mention that as I move the mouse around the page, you'll see a yellow circle appear around it. This just highlights the movements I make on the page. Then, when I click anywhere on the page, you'll see a small bluish circle appear just like this. Okay, so we're on the main Recovery Context Inventory website, and to start, we have to go to the login page. To get there, we'll go up here to the top right of the screen and click on the Login button. As we're logging into a user account, we'll be using the space here on the left underneath the user login heading. So as you're probably aware, your facilitator will enter the username for your account, and then you will take over and enter your password. I'll do both of these now. You probably noticed that as I typed the username and password, both were appearing as dots. This is deliberately done to make sure the codes can't be seen as you type them, so they're kept safe and secure. So we've got our username and password entered, and I'll go ahead and click the Login Now button. The first page we're brought to is your main dashboard. You will always be brought to this page when you log in. You'll see the account name that you picked when you created your account is here, and the name of your service is here. To get started with an RCI, we will go down here to your main navigational buttons and click on this button here, the one that reads Start a New RCI. So I'll click on that now. You'll be brought to a page that just asks if you're sure you want to start a new RCI. This page is presented to you just in case you accidentally clicked the Start a New RCI button and didn't actually want to start one. If you did accidentally click that button, you could just click on the Cancel button here, and this will bring you back to your main dashboard. Since we do want to start a new RCI, we'll go ahead and click on the Start New RCI button here. The next page you'll see is the consent form. This is the same consent form you would have seen when you first created your user account. It's presented to you here again because consent is something that is ongoing throughout your use of the RCI. And some people may not start the RCI straight after creating their accounts. So it's presented again to make sure you fully understand the RCI and the study before agreeing to continue taking part. These read aloud buttons here can be used to read out each of the statements on the consent form, and they appear throughout the RCI itself. So for example, if I click on this one here, it will read out the statement for me.
I have had an opportunity to ask questions about the study.
So if you feel that you needed some support to read parts of the RCI, these read aloud buttons might help you to complete the RCI yourself, without needing a facilitator to sit with you. As I scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see there are two buttons here. If for whatever reason you don't feel like taking part at this stage, that is your right, and your decision will be fully respected. If you didn't want to take part, you could click on this button that reads, No, I do not want to take part. This will provide you with some additional information about the RCI and give you some contact details should you want them. For the sake of this video, we'll say that we've read through all of the statements on the consent form and wish to continue to take part. So to do this, I'll click on the Yes, I agree to participate in the RCI button. The next page you'll see shows you the questions you answered about yourself when you created your account. You'll see though that these questions are already answered. This is because they are the answers that you gave when you created your account. They are presented to you again just to check over, to make sure they are all as you wanted them to be. You'll see the read aloud options are on this page as well, so clicking on any of these will read the question and the response options to you. So you can check over these questions, which we'll do now, though just to mention, these were all answered randomly just for the sake of these tutorial videos, so they're not anyone's real answers. If you notice that anything has changed since you created your account, you can change the answer by clicking on the answer that you want, just like this. Once you're done checking over your answers, you can click on the Submit button here at the bottom of the page. Now, the very last page you'll see before getting to the RCI is an instructions page. This page gives you a general overview of the RCI and what you'll be asked to do. I'll read through each part of the instructions page. So starting from the top here, the RCI is divided into 9 areas which represent different aspects of your life. You will be asked to rate a list of statements or factors about these areas to say how often each factor happens in your life, how important each factor is to your recovery. So here we have how often each factor happens in your life. You are asked to rate key factors or statements on the scale never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Then we have how important is each factor to your mental health recovery. All of the factors in the RCI have been included because a lot of people have said that they are important to recovery. However, because everyone is different, you may want to rate some factors as being more important to you than others. On the RCI, we will ask you to rate each statement to say how important you believe it is to your recovery. You can pick one, from not important, somewhat important, important, very important, extremely important. Now, here we have some information on the example questions we have down here. Starting back up here, we have read through the examples below so that you can see whether you need to ask any questions before starting the RCI. You will see that the first statement, I can depend on the transport that I use, is already answered. In this example, the option often has been picked, which shows that this person thinks that they can often depend on the transport that they use. They have also chosen the very important rating. This shows that they think that being able to depend on the transport that they use is very important to their mental health recovery. Now you try the other examples. Remember, you can ask any questions before going on. If you want to change your answer, simply click on your new answer before going on to the next question. Okay, so moving down to the first example. The first thing to mention is that we have the read aloud buttons here for the statement, here for the rating of how often this factor occurs in your life, and here for how important you feel this factor is to your mental health recovery. On this example, where the answers were already given, I can change these answers, and I'll do this now just to show you. So I changed the answers to sometimes and to extremely important. you'll see this button here, the Submit Your Answers for this question button. After you've given your answers, you can click this button to confirm or submit your answer. I'll do this now. As you'll have seen, the answers I gave have now been hidden. This is deliberately done so that the page doesn't become cluttered with things that you've essentially finished with. If for whatever reason you submit your answer, but then decide you want to change that answer, you can click on the area here to reopen the statement and change the answer you gave. So I'll change the answer to show you that this can be done, and then I'll click the Submit button again. So, just to mention, all of the statements or questions in the RCI are grouped into different areas. Each of these areas is presented to you on a separate page, and you can change your answers to a question as long as you're still on the page the question was on. Once you move on to a new RCI area, you can't go back to change your answers at that point. So moving on to the next example, to get the rating options, you can click on the Click Here to Give Your Response button, which I'll do now. As you can see, after clicking that button, the same rating options have appeared. So we have the rating options here for how often you feel this factor occurs in your life. And then we have the rating options for how important you feel this factor is to your mental health recovery. I'll answer each of these randomly, just for the sake of this video. You'll notice that as I give my answers, I could click on what we call the slider and drag it over to the answer I want to give, like this. You do this by clicking and holding down the click as you move the slider. Or I could just click on the answer I want to give, and the slider will move by itself up to the answer you give, just like this. If you answer the RCI like this, by clicking on your answer, make sure the slider is on the answer you want before clicking on the Submit button here. So I'll submit my answer for that question, and again, I'll move on and randomly answer the next one too. The final instructions text here reads, when you are completing the RCI, remember, please complete the questions in the order they are presented. In order to get your profile, you need to answer all questions. If you make a mistake, simply click on your correct answer before going on. If you want to restart your questionnaire, please click on the Restart the RCI button. If you want to take a break, click on the Take a Break button. If at any time you decide you don't want to do the RCI, click the Take a Break button. Please tell your facilitator that you wish to stop. When you are answering, you should think about your life in the last 2 weeks. Some of the questions relate to support you get from the service you use. If you haven't attended your service in the last 2 weeks, answer these questions based on your most recent experiences with the service and how you feel about the service in the last 2 weeks based on these recent experiences. So once you've read through the instructions and are happy to continue, you can click on this Continue button. After you click this button, you'll be taken to the first RCI area or page where you can then start to give your answers. For the purposes of this video, we won't go any further than this. This is because we want your first experience of the RCI to be fresh to you. So rather than showing you all of the RCI statements now, it's better that you will get to see them at the time you are going to answer them. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions at all about the RCI, please ask one of your RCI facilitators, who will do their best to answer any queries.